Hello! In this video, we are going to talk about using gender-neutral language when we are speaking in English. And we are going to do that as we discuss art. To introduce the topic, I would like to ask you this question. Do you watch cartoons? How about anime? Do you? And do you know what's the difference between the two? Think about the answer for a moment, please. And we can continue. All right. Please read the following text. I don't see why folks confuse Japanese anime with regular cartoons. Folks means people. I feel frustrated when everybody simply says that anime is for children. To me, that is just a lack of information. They are forgetting, so people are forgetting that anime has many categories for both children and adults, and it offers a great variety for all types of viewers. Right? It might help them to pay closer attention. They will notice that anime includes visually distinct features for their characters. For example, a limited animation style for depicting movement, for showing movement, that makes it completely different from cartoons. All right? So there are differences between anime and cartoons. Let's make sure that we understand some basic content here. Is anime exclusively for children? No, there is anime for children and adults. What differentiates anime from regular cartoons? Well, what? It has distinct features, for example, distinct features for the characters, and also they have a limited animation style for showing movement. All right? Good. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but in the text, we are talking about people in general, and we're not using he or she. You know why? Because in English, it is very, very common to find that we try to make our texts reach the larger audience, not only one specific gender, because in English, we have the choice, as in any other language, to use either the masculine or feminine form of adjectives or pronouns when we are talking about the people that we are addressing or that we are talking about. So for that, it is very good, very useful for us that we include some neutral language. Neutral language implying gender neutral language that can reach a reader independently or regardless of being the person being a man or a woman, being masculine or feminine. So the best way that we can do is find some resources like the ones illustrated in this passage. Let me show you some of those and some vocabulary that will be very useful for you in this area. For example, the text says, I don't see why some folks is just another way for people, and we're not saying men or women. You see, some folks confuse Japanese anime with regular cartoons. Or they say, the person who wrote this says, I feel frustrated when everybody simply says, instead of saying men or women, they say everybody. It's an inclusive term for everybody. Simply says that anime is for children. And the use of they for the plural is very common. They are forgetting that, you see, actually when we talk about everybody, you see that it's a singular subject and the verb conjugated with it is singular. The most logical consequence of that is that we say he or she because it is singular, but it is fine in English to use they as a plural referent to somebody that we don't want to get into a detail of saying if it's he or she. For example, somebody may say, the artist is very good at that, but we don't want to say he or she. We say they can do this. It is not grammatically acceptable, but pragmatically acceptable to switch from singular to plural when we just don't want to focus on a specific gender. All right? So we can say, they are forgetting that anime has many categories for both children and adults. Children is also an all-inclusive term. Instead of saying a boy or a girl, we could say children, right? And adults. Adults even can help there. Instead of saying men and women, adults. It might help them to pay closer attention. They will notice that anime includes visually distinct features for the characters. All right, so those are just some examples of how the text uses some neutral language to avoid referring to men or women. But there are some other terms that I have listed here for you that are useful for you to take into account. Instead of saying he or she, you can say they. Instead of saying ladies, gentlemen, or guys, which may be general, including both, it's better to say folks or everybody. Yeah, even guys might help. I think most of the times if it's very informal, but guy usually is more associated with a boy than with a girl, but more and more girls are using that for referring to only feminine groups. All right. You can, instead of saying mankind, because mankind implies man, has the word man there, you could say humankind. All right, instead of saying man or men or woman or women, you could refer to people. Congressmen could be changed to members of Congress. All right, instead of saying girlfriend or boyfriend or wife or husband, you have some other terms like partner, although partner may involve some business partner, but it is acceptable to use that word as a romantic partner. All right, partner, or they say significant other, or you could say spouse. All right, instead of saying husband or wife, spouse. Instead of saying freshman, imagine freshman is the person who belongs to the first year of college or the first year of high school, and you could just say first year student instead of using man there. Something that is man-made could be replaced by not machine-made or synthetic or artificial. All right. So actually, it's not only it's the tool that man can use, that people that people can use to make something. All right. Our language has a lot of gender distinctions there that we may need to work on. All right, instead of saying son or daughter, you could say child, or sons and daughters, children. Instead of saying boy or girl, you can also say child, or you can say kid if you need to. Instead of saying sister or brother, you can say my sibling. I use that as a plural form all the time, but sibling is fine as singular as well. And those professions, let's say occupations that may imply some gender there, like fireman or steward and stewardess, could just replace that with firefighters or flight attendants. It is independent of gender there. All right. So that is just a sample of the vocabulary that we can introduce in our language to be more neutral when we're referring to gender. All right. So I have some practice for you. All right. Rewrite the following text, including more gender neutral language. That is the instruction. All right. So I have a text here for you. I'm going to read it with you to make sure that we understand it. And probably I'm going to point out some things that you might need to work on. All right. It says, dance is a masterpiece of body expression. It's a wonderful sport that links the dancer's body and space through rhythmic movements which require his discipline and dedication. He has to be focused on his routine, which can be done individually, in pairs, or a group. It's also very common for a dancer to pair up with their brother or sister, or even boyfriend or girlfriend, mostly depending on the dance's genre. Genre is the type of dance. This is a great advantage for coordination and practicing, since like all sports, each of his movements needs to be skillful and precise. The better the communication between dancers and the effort they put into it, the better the performance. All right? So I would like for you to read this carefully and see what things you can change to the text, not only changing his or her today, but see if there's some other ways of you including more neutral language. For example, rephrasing some sentences that are more inclusive or that are more plural instead of in the singular form. All right? I want you to take a moment, please, and rephrase or rewrite this paragraph in order to make it more neutral in terms of the language that it is using. All right? Please pause my video, complete the activity right now. All right, thank you. Thank you very much for having done that. And let me show you some sample rewriting that a boy did of this passage. All right? It says, dance is a masterpiece of body expression. There is nothing to change there. Capable of connecting people like no other art form. Unlike other arts, dance links the body and space through rhythmic movements which require discipline and dedication. Some dance routines, instead of focusing on the dancer, some dance routines are done individually, but many are still done in pairs or a group, mostly depending on the genre. Wow, this is a very good rewriting because it is eliminating very specific details. Another common trait between dancers is to practice with their siblings instead of brothers or sisters, as well as, and it's their, right? Their siblings as well as their significant others. This student chose to use significant others instead of saying boyfriend and girlfriend, which is a great advantage for coordination and practicing. The better the communication between dancers and the effort they put into it, the better the performance. I like this. It is much more neutral in terms of the gender. I don't see any traces there. And that is the idea of this activity. Okay, I know that your paragraph may be different, but this is just a sample of how we can make language more neutral in terms of gender. All right, I am going to pause my video so that you can listen to his pronunciation, and as he pronounces that, you are going to repeat after them. All right, go ahead, listen and practice.
Dance is a masterpiece of body expression, capable of connecting people like no other art form. Unlike other arts, dance links the body and space through rhythmic movements which require discipline and dedication. Some dance routines are done individually, but many are still done in pairs or a group, mostly depending on the genre. Another common trait between dancers is to practice with their siblings as well as their significant others, which is a great advantage for coordination and practicing. The better the communication between dancers and their effort put into it, the better the performance.
All right. Thank you very much for having practiced his pronunciation. I know it's a boy who was pronouncing this. That's why I use him, but I use he and his. But of course, I was playing with you when I said them. It is just to apply what we had discussed here. All right. I thank you very much for having pronounced this, and I would like to invite you to keep using a language that is more inclusive and that reaches an audience that can be not necessarily boys or girls, but an audience that can be identified with your text the way it is without having to make much more processing on their part. All right? Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video.